Good afternoon.
What's up, Ari?
Here you go.
Quick peek. Tree was hiding. Freshly turkey.
Welcome to Christmas Story House and Museum Tour. My name is Tom, and I'll be leading this tonight. A couple of questions before we begin. How many think this is the actual house used in the filming of the Christmas
Not me,
Story?
because you're asking that question.
Me?
Yeah, it
Because they've
is.
never even watched
You have it? So who has not seen the movie?
it. Me?
No.
Well, you'll have a chance pretty soon then. It'll be on all day long here real soon. Anybody see the movie in a theater? Yeah, that just means we're old. This movie is the brainchild of two gentlemen, director Bob Clark, who is best known for making low-budget horror films called things like Black Christmas and Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, and a raunchy teen comedy called Porky's, and Gene Shepard, who was a writer and a radio personality. Gene Shepard used to write short stories about growing up in a steel town in Indiana called Hammond, and he would talk about different things that happened, and etc. And he had a radio program that he would tell these stories over the radio and act out the voices and the different characters. And Bob Clark was driving to pick up a date one day and had his radio on, and he heard Gene Shepard telling a story about his friend Flick, who got his tongue stuck to a flagpole. And he thought, you know, this would make a great scene in this Christmas film I'm trying to make. But he was having trouble getting this Christmas film made. MGM wanted him to make a sequel to Porky's, so he agreed to make Porky's 2 for them, provided they'd give him the money to make a Christmas story. So he got a whopping $2.5 million out of it, which seems like a lot of money, but to put that in perspective, it was the lowest budgeted big studio film made that year. In fact, the second lowest budgeted film that year had a $5 million budget. So he didn't have a lot of money to work with, but he wanted to do the best they can. And so he and Gene Shepard wrote a screenplay based on those short stories. And they needed a few things in order to follow that storyline. They wanted a steel mill because that's where Gene Shepard had grown up, and the original screenplay had a lot of scenes set in the steel mill. Now, if you remember the movie, they don't even mention the steel mill at all. The studio insisted the movie be 90 minutes long. They wanted to be able to play it in the movie theaters as many times as possible. Therefore, they had to cut all those scenes out of the screenplay before they even tried to film it. But they also needed a department store because they wanted to build a 30-foot tall Santa mountain with a sliding board. And more importantly, from the filmmaker's point of view, they wanted a department store that would allow them to keep all the Christmas decorations up for months after Christmas. Because this movie was made in January, February, and March of 1983. So they sent these notifications around to the United States and Canada up to the various stores saying, can we film in your store? And they got one answer. And that was from Higbee's department store here in downtown Cleveland. Or at least I should say it was in downtown. You can go to the building still, at least if you're over 21. It's now the Jack's Casino. But that building is still there. So the location scouts were sent to check out the store that had said, hey, yes, you can film in our store. Yes, you can leave the decorations up. They found out, being a low-budget film, that we're going to save some money because Higbee's not only would allow them to keep the decorations up, they were still using 1940s era Christmas decorations in their displays, and so they already had a period appropriate stuff to use. They also realized that downtown Public Square was enough of an area where they could film scenes like that parade sequence you see in the movie, or the boys out looking at the windows. That was all filmed here in Cleveland. Just under half the entire movie was filmed here in Cleveland, Ohio. The other half was filmed in sound stages in Toronto, Canada. Now, they also wanted to get a steel mill in the film, so they decided to follow the smoke from downtown to find the steel mill. They didn't bother to ask for directions. I guess they figured that was cheating. So they started driving along trying to follow the smoke, and of course they got lost. And they got lost right outside there at the corner of West 11th and Raleigh Avenue, where they stumbled across this home, which, unlike the other houses around here, had not been updated. It looked like it belonged in the 1940s. So they got all excited and ran up on the porch and knocked on the door, and nobody was home. So they're lost, they're getting a little cranky because they're hungry. So they decided to go across the street to the 107-year-old Raleigh Inn to get a bite to eat and something to drink. We highly recommend the Raleigh Inn if you do feel hungry. Guy Fieri visited it for a show, Dive-Ins, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and he loved it. So it is recommended. They also figured, hey, who's gonna know who lives in this house that nobody was home at? But the bartender right across the street, which was a good idea, except it was the bartender's first day on the job. He didn't know who anybody was. So they're describing to this bartender their day and what they're doing in Cleveland. When finally this guy who'd been sitting at the end of the bar listening walks up and says, "Why are you talking about my house?" It was the homeowner. They got all excited. "Oh, this is fantastic. We want to use your movie in a Christmas film." And the guy said, "No. What am I going to do? Would you say 11 weeks you want to film in my house?" Well, they were a little bummed, but they bought him a drink, maybe another drink or two, gave him a check for $20,000, and put him up at a 5-star hotel in downtown Cleveland. And then they got the keys to the house. Now at this point, they'd never been inside the house yet. So they were very pleasantly surprised when they walked through that door, because they realized, even though almost all inside scenes you see in a movie are actually filmed on sound stages, they could do some filming here in the house. The space is big enough, even with the bulky film cameras of that era, they could do some filming. So as you watch the film, anytime you can see outside these windows, anytime the doors are open and there's people coming and going, or maybe bumpus hounds dragging a turkey out the back door, then that was all filmed here right where we're standing. One of my favorite scenes that's been filmed here standing is the delivery of the fragile crate, as we call it. Watch closely as you see the film, because the crate, when it's outside the door, besides having a rope around it that mysteriously disappears, says "this end up on the crate." Well, they didn't measure the door properly, so it wouldn't fit. When they got it in the house, they had to take 6 inches off that crate to get it to fit. So if you look at our crate here, or the packaging of our crates in the gift shop, they say "his end up." We did that because that's what, if you watch inside the house in the movie, it says "his end up" on the crate. They just whacked part of it off and brought it inside the house. So they have a house, they have a department store, they have a steel mill that they're not going to use. So we just needed a cast. And our main cast is here on the wall, the Parker family. Ian Petrella, who played Randy, he was cast because of his laugh. He did such a great job in the "Eat Like a Piggy" sequence during the audition that they just said, "this is the one." Peter Billingsley, who plays older brother Ralphie, he was the 8th person auditioned out of 1,000. They interviewed 992 more kids and realized that kid in the beginning was the best one. Hey there. Step right in. I'll fill you in a little bit once I get everybody loose, but come on in. There you go.
Hi.
Now, Melinda Dillon plays the mother. She didn't have to audition at all. She was in a movie called Close Encounters of the Third Kind, some of you may have seen, where she played a mother. And the director decided that she did such a good job, she could have the part if she wanted it. And then it's hard to imagine anybody besides Darren McGavin playing the old man. You realize the parents don't have any names in the movie. They're called either mom or dad or the old man. But he was not director Bob Clark's first choice. He wanted an actor who had been in a movie recently meaning when this film was made in the early 80s, about a father who had a small boy and a wife, and they went to a big hotel in the Colorado mountains where they'd gotten snowed in for the winter. Yeah, if you can imagine what I'm talking about. Picture that scene where Randy's hiding under the sink going, "Daddy's gonna kill Ralphie!" And Jack Nicholson walks in, because that's who he wanted. Now, this was a low-budget film, as I said. Jack Nicholson would have taken the entire amount of this budget of this film for his salary. So there's no way he was going to be able to be cast. Darren McGavin, thankfully, was available. He also had clothes that looked like they belonged from the 40s. That's much of his own wardrobe he's wearing. So that helped save them some money. Now, as I had said earlier, this is the interactive part of our tour. Everything in here is a replica, so you can touch it, you can play with it, you can pretend to shoot your eye out with the BB gun, you can pick up the leg lamp and have your picture taken with it, you can spoon with it inside the crate if you'll fit, we don't judge. You can grope the leg lamp in the window if you wish. We're not going to judge. The people outside the window might have some thoughts, however. You're more than welcome to go upstairs. We just ask you not to get on the beds in the boys' room. Please pick up the telephone and listen to an interesting conversation between some mothers going on. You might have to teach some of the younger people how to use a dial telephone when you're up there. Also, please don't put the soap in your mouth. It does have some teeth marks in it, so if somebody hadn't listened to us, we'd like to keep it in one piece. I'll be more than happy to take any pictures that you like. So go ahead and have some fun. If you have any questions, just ask me, and we'll gather up when everyone's done to continue the tour. You been here before, Bob?
Yes, we have.
How long have you been
here?
Oh.
It was 3 years?
4 years.
4 years. Okay.
Been here and came back. Holy shit. Thought that was all about what he said. Swam.
Yeah. Downtown Digby's.
Yep. Now it's Jack's Casino.
Yeah. Still looks the same.
Well, yeah, the chandeliers are still there.
I popped in there when we were here last time just to look real quick.
Yeah. Beautiful to see today.
Yeah.
It was 10 stories of shopping. Well, the 10th floor was like the elite floor.
Okay.
Two floors is where they set up Santa Claus.
Big?
Yep.
Okay.
9th floor was the Silver Girl restaurant and this beautiful Art Deco design. They were still there because it was all stainless steel. I like to use custom, nothing's corroded.
Can you see
Rich
that?
Carlton uses it as an event space.
Oh, okay.
So you might be able to get in that way. A few years back, the casino had an offer to members of the brunch during the holidays. Mother was still alive, so I took her down there.
Oh, that's
Because that may have been the first restaurant I ever went to as a kid that had like a waiter or waitress, or as I like to say, they didn't ask me if I wanted fries.
Okay.
But they would bring your kids' meals out and we were